Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Nick Cage Fight Podcast. And what a strange journey it's been, right? If you've been with us from the beginning, if you're tuning in for the first time, welcome. You're in for a treat because today we are discussing a film that asks the question, what if a crazed lumberjack needed to fight the members of the band Slipknot? I'm one of your hosts, Josh, joined as always by Rich and Ryan here to discuss the film Mandy. How are we feeling, guys?
Feeling like I gotta listen to some more King Crimson after this.
Right?
I'm going to ask my feelings in the form of a question. Do you think Jimmy Butler really got 3 lip rings and an eyebrow ring just to prove that he's emo? I'm asking the wrong crowd. I just realized.
I think
the
you
wrong
might
crowd,
be,
but
yeah.
oddly enough, the overlap in my interest means this did come across my feed. So I do know what you're talking about. You're talking about a basketball player.
Yes,
Jimmy, who did
Himmy Butler, because he is him.
You're asking about a basketball player who did emo cosplay, and you're asking about his level of commitment to the bit. And I would say most people wouldn't get legitimate piercings for a bit, especially a professional athlete.
So
what if that bit is really funny?
Yeah, but also as somebody who follows basketball and knows Jimmy Butler, there is a coin toss shot that he actually went and said, just do this shit for me.
It's possible.
Also, big ups that he just randomly started posting emo bands on his Instagram to like 11 million followers. So
I might not be a big sports fan, but I am a big fan of people committing to the bit. So I say kudos. God bless.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been thinking about that ever since. It was funny. You'd actually see the correspondence between there were a few bands that he not retweeted, but like posted on Instagram, and one of the bands was Hot Mulligan.
Oh shit!
And you could see, because I was like, I have to see if like their plays went up like 9 million in 24 hours. And I'm just like, they're the luckiest band in the world right now.
Fucking shout out. That's one of my brother's favorite bands.
One of my favorite
shit
bands.
Out of Hot Mulligan.
Fucking love Hot Mulligan.
And I love Celtic Frost, which will come up later.
Oh, yes, it will. I was going to bring it up if you didn't. So.
Oh, okay. I'm glad I wasn't the only one that picked up on that.
I picked up on it and then confirmed it.
Okay. All right. Solid.
So I'm relying entirely on you two to lift the musical commentary on this film in general.
Hey man, I just love heavy metal. I'm a hesher.
Yeah, look, like I have eclectic music takes, but stuff that I just like but don't strictly have playlists for, I go purely on vibes. And I love the vibes of this film as much as you can.
Yeah,
exactly.
I was going to say same. Like the musical vibes of this film is hard to match.
I mean, it fucking opens with Starless and Bible Black by King Crimson. So like I was sold from the first second I watched this.
Yeah, the visual vibes are a bit horrifying at times, but we'll get into all that. It's fine.
Yeah. Also, that's the other thing, which, speaking as somebody who doesn't have the deep dive knowledge of the musical portion of it, it is a huge portion of this film's identity for reasons that we will get into. But you don't have to have that foreknowledge to sort of dive in, right? So
yeah, agreed.
Like we said, we are here to discuss the film Mandy, a 2018 film that was not rated, that clocks in at just an absolute smooth 2 hours and 1 minute, which
no wasted motion.
Yeah, worth every minute. I mean, listeners of the pod know that we are a fan of the 90-minute movie.
Love a tight 90.
Yep,
but
tight 90.
A movie can go to if the time is not wasted, and this movie has no wasted time.
Correct. This podcast's position has been explicitly stated. We've thrown down a gauntlet. If you want me to pay attention for more than 90 minutes, best use it. And Mandy was like, "Fucking bet. We'll we'll fucking show you what we're here for.
Yeah, like you better have a chainsaw fight if you're going over 90.
You better have the coolest fucking crossbow bolts of all time.
Yes.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to get into. So I say we knock out housekeeping immediately up top, like always. Fucking changing our format. No. Let's get right into it. So for director, we have Panos Cosmatos, which I'm assuming is a pseudonym, or
No, he's Greek.
It is not.
No, he's Greek.
He's Italian.
Is he Italian?
He's Italian Canadian.
Really? I thought he was
born
Greek.
he was born in Rome.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the option 2, the most coincidentally coolest name you could stumble your ass into through birth, is our director.
Yeah. And just a quick thing too, his father. So the reason why he has that last name is that his father was born to a Greek Italian.
Hey, I was gonna say, I just saw that his dad is Greek Italian,
and who was a filmmaker, who did Rambo: First Blood Part 2
and Cobra. Apparently, my favorite Stallone flick.
Oh, I'm gonna be the lone voice in the wilderness here and go show my disappointment that this is a case of nepotism. But hey, at least he's fucking performing the lift.
I mean, he's only done 2 movies technically as
True.
a director. Like most of his work previously was, I think, as a camera operator, which I don't necessarily consider nepotism if you're working your way up through the technical aspects of filmmaking to a directing.
Right. I mean, he also has one television credit as well, which is Cabinet of Curiosities,
which I still haven't gotten around to.
Get around to it.
Yeah,
Get around to it. Which is a perfect segue into talking about the CV, because he is also one of the writers, and the credits are the same. It's this film, Beyond the Black Rainbow, and one episode of Cabinet of Curiosities, Guillermo del Toro joint, which again, my advice to Ryan stands for our general listenership. If you haven't gotten around to it, fucking check it out. So that covers director and first writer. Let's get into the other writers. First up, we have Aaron Stewart who did the Witcher Blood Origin miniseries and also worked on the episode of Cabinet of Curiosities. So small circle, no new friends. I dig it. However, our last writer, which may just be getting credit for a single bit in the film, I'm not sure how much input they had otherwise, is a Casper Kelly.
I looked it up. He just did the Cheddar Goblin commercial. That was it.
Which is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And if you
have
seen the film, the CV here will not surprise. Most of their work has to do specifically with Adult Swim stuff. Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell. I think they were actually a co-creator of that. Some episodes of Squidbillies. Too Many Cooks, which if you haven't seen that goddamn fever dream, do yourself
That's one of my favorite pieces of horror.
Check it out.
I love it.
And my favorite, I have to throw it in there because especially when I stumble across a writer that has a credit like this, I look at one of their earliest things. One of their earliest things was 2 episodes of Cat Dog.
Okay.
Which is perfectly fine. Who doesn't fuck with Cat Dog?
Losers, but that too.
Exactly. I mean, come on. So that is going to wrap the director and writing staff. Moving on seamlessly to cast, we have, as always, top of the list, Nicolas Cage as Red Miller.
Oh, also, let's give a quick shout out to Elijah Wood, who was a producer.
He was a producer. He was. I saw it and I was like, do I want to call it out specifically? We don't necessarily do producers all the time on the show, but Elijah Wood has got a very interesting
if you were to tell me 20 years ago that in the year of our Lord 2013, 3 of my favorite people in Hollywood would be Frodo Baggins, Harry Potter, and the shiny vampire from Twilight, I would be like, you are absolutely ridiculous.
Fucking Good Times. One of the things I agree with Pete Davidson on is Good Times is a fucking phenomenal film. Everybody should watch. Robert Pattinson joint, check it out. Very solid.
Those are the same dudes that did Uncut Gems, which was fucking phenomenal.
Daddy Longlegs, which is really bleak but also very funny.
That seems to be their thing. Like, Uncut Gems was hilarious, but absurdly bleak.
That movie gives me anxiety in the best possible way.
I was gonna say Uncut Gems is like, hey, do you know a friend who doesn't suffer chronic anxiety like you do? Show them Uncut Gems and ask them how they're feeling halfway through the fucking film. But yeah, no, I fucking love the shit out of Elijah Wood's body of work. If we weren't doing the Nick Cage fight podcast, we would be doing Would You Rather, a full deep dive on Elijah Wood's filmography.
We have so many more like shows to do after Nick Cage fight.
Defend or Defoe, Would You Rather, between a Rourke and a Hard Place, or we will Rourke you. There's so many options. All right, so moving through the cast, we have, and I'm going to expect some pushback at the end of this list because I did not include all of the cultists. I'm sorry. I was a little bit pressed for time this week, but top of the list underneath Nick Cage, we have Andrea Riseborough.
That's how I pronounce it.
Yeah,
Riseborough.
I don't know. Everybody in this movie except for Nick Cage is like Irish, so
Andrea plays Mandy Bloom, the titular Mandy, and has been in Oblivion, Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, Possessor,
which I fucking loved. Yeah. I loved Possessor.
Nocturnal Animals, which is a solid film, including one of my more favorite actors, Jake Gyllenhaal. And finally, a weird one that I'm not sure everybody has, or many people have seen or appreciated, The Death of Stalin.
Yes, I like Death of Stalin.
That movie was so funny.
I quite like that. I don't know if it's the writer or the director, but they did a like British like political comedy show for a little while called In the Loop, which I quite liked. It's got one of the dudes who plays Doctor Who, one of the Doctors Who, and he's just has the foulest mouth I've ever seen on a man ever. It's great.
Also, just a big shout out to this actress because one of the things that I really hate, at least like remember like the mid 2000s, late 2000s Nick Cage movies, they would pair like a 47-year-old Nick Cage with like a 22-year-old actress and be like, that's his love interest.
Yeah, Jessica Biel. Yeah. Are we going back to my least favorite fucking film?
I mean, that's just a Hollywood thing.
Well, just in even the good film, like in Drive Angry, it was, I forget who it was, but again, it was somebody who
was fucking Amber Heard.
Yeah, like I forgot it was Amber Heard.
It's fucking Amber Heard.
But also, by the way, put some respect on her name because Drive Angry was one of the better films we've reviewed.
Yeah, let's be honest here.
No, but she was still like a 24-year-old, and Nick Cage was like 44, and I'm happy they didn't do that with this film. Like she looks.
I agree.
Now, in reality, she is a very, very attractive woman, but they really make her look kind of rough and tumble in this film, which I appreciated.
That's the whole reason why I'm not overly familiar with the actress, so I don't know if it's a real scar or something that they added in costume design, but specifically that scar under her left eye was for viewers like Rich, who is like, oh yeah, all right. Also, Ryan, real quick before I forget, In the Loop, Iannucci is who you're thinking of, and I thought it was, but I didn't want to shout it out without double checking.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Peter Capaldi's the actor that has the absolutely filthy mouth in that.
Yeah, there you go. So next up we have Linus Roche as Jeremiah Sand. Linus Roche is one of those guys. Now my go-to is for the prompt, the very popular online prompt, like who is a background character or side character that when you see him, you know it's going to be a fire film or show. Shea Wiggum is my go-to because that man is a leading man. He's just waiting for his fucking moment, my opinion, personally. But Linus Roche is up there. He's been in some good things. The big ones that you got to shout out. He was Thomas Wayne in Batman Begins. He was in The Forgotten. He was in Chronicles of Riddick. But I think he's generally a very solid character actor, and this is a very firm feather in his cap.
I mean, lest we forget that he was in like 60 or 70 episodes of Law and Order too.
Correct. But if we were going to shout out every actor on our list, fucking Law and Order credits, we'd be here all
Yeah, but
goddamn
I think
day.
he's like a recurring enough character that Dane's mentioning at the very least.
True.
Yep.
Next,
I'm also going to shout out when I went on my Vin Diesel kick. He's in Find Me Guilty, which was a 2006 Vin Diesel flick that I will actually suggest everybody watch. It's pretty good.
Yeah, you were talking about that one the other day. That's on my list. I just can't watch it this month because I'm contractually obligated to watch nothing but horror.
That makes sense. No, I went on a Vin Diesel kick and I watched that.
That just contractually obligated as well to mention Boiler Room and Knockaround Guys. You caught those on your Vin Diesel track,
of
right?
course.
All
right.
Hell yeah.
Of course. I watch Boiler Room on a weekly basis. I love that flick.
It's a good fucking film. Next up, we have Ned Dennehy as Brother Swan, who's been in Peaky Blinders, Guns Akimbo, shouting out one of Rich's favorite actors, Good Omens, Rogue One, and he was in the Sherlock Holmes series as well. The fucking BBC Benadryl Kumquat.
Yeah, the one that started out really strong and then got real stupid.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. I just started watching Good Omens, by the way. It's not half bad.
I love it. I mean, the book's real good too. Give the book a try, maybe.
But the book doesn't have David Tennant. That's the thing.
No, the book doesn't have David Tennant, but it's co-written between Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett, two of my favorite authors.
I do like Terry Pratchett, so I will give it a.
Neil Gaiman.
Yeah,
those are givens. Also, by the way, Rich, if you were not aware, when you read a book, you can cast whoever you want as any of the characters in your mind's eye.
No, it's always Ben Affleck. It's just how my brain works.
He was the bomb in Phantoms. Yo.
He was the bomb in Phantoms,
yo.
No, my brain just works that it's always Ben Affleck giving the speech in Good Will Hunting about the best part of his day.
I forget. I've got a cold. Did you mention Reign of Fire? We got to talk about Reign of Fire.
I did not mention Reign of Fire.
All right, he was in Reign of Fire as well.
Yeah, he was when he crashed into the World Trade Towers.
I gotta rewatch that movie. If any
movie rules
spawned a franchise, that one probably should have spawned a franchise.
Absolutely.
That was a solid post-apocalyptic fantasy setting that I could get behind.
We could have had the.
We haven't had a good dragons or badass movie in a while. I think Game of Thrones ruined it for us.
We could have had that movie mixed with World Trade Tower, just dragons going in.
A second dragon has hit the
World Trade Center. Yeah. You call it Reign of Fire 2, but 2's in Roman numerals and it's shaped like the World Trade Center.
Oh
if you do that, you're gonna make money.
I'm pretty sure we made this joke.
We made this joke already. This is a callback.
Yeah.
Josh is sitting here
for nothing,
pretending to be offended.
That is $1 million. No, that's $1 billion idea.
I know it is.
Sorry.
Where's our $1 billion? I'd love $1 billion.
Just wait. Somebody's gonna fucking try that in the next 10 years, and we're gonna sue the dick off of them.
God, yes, please.
Okay, we just gotta say TM a bunch of times real quick.
No. We post this on the fucking internet. The fucking timestamp is on there, man. We have somebody will take that fucking case pro bono. Yeah. I'll tell you that. I was trying to.
We already had the idea up. Yeah.
Without this, but unfortunately, I have to declare that our next actor is an ad run. So, come on, guys. We like this film, so we're going to fucking go along on it. So deal with some ads. If you hate the ads, have I got a deal for you? Rich, hit him with the deets.
Oh, you can go to patreon.com/NickCageFight and give us $1 a month, and you can get away from these pesky ads. It's like how in the 80s the Noid was trying to get your pizza.
And by hated pizzas.
And by ordering Domino's, you could avoid the Noid. Well, think of ads as the Noid and giving us $1 as Domino's pizza, I guess. I don't know if this analogy went off the rails. Here's some ads. And we're back. I hope you avoided the Noid.
I'm sorry. I fucking love that because that intro is going to hit with 2% of our audience at best.
Yeah. Maybe like 3. You got to factor in people that were alive when the Noid was a thing and also vintage video game collectors.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. For people who are not aware, the Noid was part of a advertising campaign by Domino's that was so strong they made a Super NES game based on it.
Everybody.
only
There
was
was
it-
a Chester Cheetos game. There was a
There
cool
was a
spot
cool
game.
spot game. But
This-
like the
yeah,
most
the 7-Up
important
There
thing
was a
about the
McDonald's
Noid,
game.
my favorite thing about the Noid though is that he was discontinued as an advertising character because Domino's drivers kept getting into car accidents because their primary bit was 30 minutes or less delivery, so they had to shit can that along with the Noid, who was tied up in that advertising campaign.
Bring back the Noid. Hashtag bring back the Noid. Fucking make it
They
happen.
did. They
Guys.
brought him back for like a week.
No.
He had
I
like
want
a
Noid
I want
forever.
I want a solid pizza protagonist, sir. I want him to be timeless.
no, he's a pizza anti-hero.
All right. We got some people still to pay some respects to. So next up, we have Olwen Fior as Mother Marlene. My apologies if I butchered your last name.
Say Fuer, I don't fucking know, man.
Yeah. I might have fucked that up, but CV here has some things that people would certainly recognize. The Titan among them, the Northmen, which I'm assuming most people watched, even if you had severe criticisms because you thought any movie about Vikings was about white supremacy. It was a good fucking movie. Next up, we have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. I've seen all these films. I got to admit, the fucking new crop doesn't particularly stick out, but I did see this one, and I do enjoy Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies as much as they deserve.
Second one's still the best one. Dennis Hopper, he's just got a bunch of chainsaws.
Is that the one that McConaughey is in too?
No, that's New Generations.
Gotcha.
I think that's either 3 or 4, but yeah, no, two is the one you got Bill Paxton as Chop Top, where he's got the metal plate on his dome.
Love Bill Paxton. She was in the Survivalist, and also a Pox Upon the Writer's House, Fantastic Beast, Crimes of Grindelwald. I think that's the second one.
Oh, those movies are awful, so bad.
I
hope they stopped making them. Actually, did they? I hope so.
They finished the fucking trilogy.
Oh, because they were terrible.
They were some. The last one had Mads Mikkelsen in them, and I'm sorry if you put Mads Mikkelsen in something, I'm gonna watch it. So shame on me. But again, that's everybody else's fault for putting Mads Mikkelsen in it. Next up, we have Richard Brake as the chemist, who's been in a number of things. The Doom movie, Hannibal Rising, Kingsman, The Secret Service, Barbarian, which is a hell of a shout out in Spooky Month. If you haven't seen Barbarian yet, what are you doing?
I mean, I watch a lot of Whitest Kids You Know. Does that count?
No.
It doesn't count, but that is a good foundation to watch Barbarian and be like, that guy made fucking this. Especially a killer double feature is Miss March and then Barbarian.
Miss March is the one with horse-stick.mpeg, right?
Yes,
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Listen, horse-stick.mpeg.
Also, the source of one of my favorite jokes. One of my longest standing friends is a firefighter, and I constantly clown on him with jokes that I've only ever seen in this movie about how people hate firefighters.
Silly
they breathe
firefighters.
Toxic smoke for a living. They're all crazy. People hate firefighters. Which, again, it's the only source of that joke, but I gotta fucking clown on him every time.
And it's just funny to me that the same guy who wrote Barbarian also beat Abraham Lincoln to death by beating his butt with a hammer. Which is how it actually happened. They were saying Hamlet.
But also, before we get off of him, this dude was also in Death of Stalin. And apparently, I don't know if he was the fucking mocap or the voice or what, but he is credited as the Night King in Game of Thrones.
He's also the guy that kills fucking Bruce Wayne's parents in Batman Begins.
Oh, shit. There you go. Another fucking tie-in.
And I got one more to shout out because I just found out it exists, and I'm gonna have to watch that this month. There's a Tremors movie that came out in 2020 called Tremors: Shrieker's Island, and he is there.
Tremors is timeless. Go back and watch the first one right fucking now.
First three, I'd even say.
I agree entirely. Tremors. This is a Tremors appreciation stance.
This is a pro Tremors podcast.
Absolutely. And then the last up I have, get ready to shout at me, your call outs. I have Bill Duke as Carruthers.
I was gonna say, if we don't talk about Bill Duke, I'm gonna be
We're
very disappointed.
are you kidding me? Give me a little bit of credit. Bill Duke, known from Predator, Commando, Exit Wounds, X-Men, The Last Stand, Red Dragon, and I had to throw in one of my favorites, just from a CV, Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit.
Oh yeah,
But
absolutely.
but basically, if you were watching an early '90s action flick, this man was in it, in a spotlight position. So kudos. We appreciate Bill Duke here.
Yeah, I'm just gonna also shout out American Gigolo because I love that movie.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Again, there are at least 2 cultists, probably 3, I think. I didn't mention Sister Lucy, or the blonde long hair, or the large balding long hair.
I thought Sister Lucy was the. Oh, you're talking about the guy with the long hair, blonde dude. Okay.
Yeah.
No, they don't have anything worth mentioning on their CV, so let's just blow right past them.
Let's get into the plot, because I gotta say, the very first bit of this film is going to represent the pinnacle of our research as far as deep dives are concerned into the films that we review. I will start this with a warning. First warning is, if you haven't seen this movie, this is one of the few times I'll take a moment at the top of the episode to tell you, probably watch this one. I love bringing our listeners digestible in a pure audio format movies that they wouldn't otherwise take the time to watch but would listen to on their commute. This is a movie I recommend you watch, first up. Second of all, do not expect this level of research on any other film that we watch. This is a very specific situation that caught my eye, and I wanted to get into it. So the film opens on some words displayed on screen. Those words are: when I die, bury me deep. Lay 2 speakers at my feet, wrap some headphones around my head, and rock and roll me when I'm dead. That's the quote that appears at the beginning of this film. And I was like, that is catchy, and there's no accreditation whatsoever. So I went looking. And what I found is that these were the last words spoken, with a little bit of truncation. There's some more that he said, but these are the last words spoken before an execution of one Douglas Roberts, who was killed by lethal injection by the state of Texas on April 20th, 2005. By the way, just in the interest of full disclosure, Douglas Roberts was convicted of robbery, kidnapping, and murder. So there's that. However, there's more to this story. I found a snippet from a Redditor of all people, who I will shout out. The Redditor user handle is pale_raspberry9915, submitted 1 year ago. And they said, and I quote, however, I traced the quote back to a Hope College newspaper entitled The Anchor, published in April 1988 in an article regarding a student's Grateful Dead concert experience. The article closed with the reporter quoting a random dude in the parking lot who the reporter asked for comment. Quote, another deadhead refused to give me any comment but left me with this bit of dead poetry. When I die, you can bury me deep, put 2 speakers at my feet, a set of earphones on my head, and don't play nothing but the Grateful Dead.
Lame. I don't like the Dead.
Definitely seemingly similar to a parody of the Marine Cadence, albeit unclear if this person got the poetry from another source prior or if it was made up on the spot. Too long didn't read. The convicted murderer ripped off a deadhead, likely ripping off the Marine Cadence, because there is a Marine Cadence call that starts off, when I die, bury me deep, or something along those lines. I thought that was super interesting.
Yeah.
What if the deadhead was the murderer?
He probably was. Most Grateful Dead fans are probably murderers.
Yeah, it makes sense, actually.
There is, by the way, there's nothing in my research to suggest that specifically, but who knows? So there we go. That is an interesting opening quote, and is, I think, one of the primary anchors to this movie's deep attachment to music in general as part of the medium it uses to convey its story. So from there, we get a camera panning over the woods. We see Nicolas Cage as Red Miller chainsawing down a tree and then hopping in a helicopter with a few other workers to leave a job site. From there, the movie wastes no time. We get a really trippy scene that starts with an extreme close-up of a woman smoking what I'm assuming is weed, and working on some art. And then we get some flashes of art. A woman with an eagle, a woman with a lion or very dramatically drawn dog, a wolf with a bunch of eyes. And then we see Red driving home, listening to, it's funny, he's listening to some radio station that's playing like conservative NPR, basically is how he would describe it, and he turns it off. This isn't an explicitly political movie, but I just thought that was an interesting thing to throw in there. And then we get stylized text across the screen reading The Shadow Mountains, 1983 AD, sort of placing us geographically and in time, although I don't know if the Shadow Mountains are a fucking real place.
I'm about to look it up.
Yeah, I was about to say my good friend Mr. Google knows.
So we get a number of these, by the way, while you guys are looking this up.
Oh, yes, it does exist. The Shadow Mountains are located in the Mojave Desert of Eastern California in the United States.
This wasn't
okay.
Well,
it's like it's right in California, but like way inland, like almost near Las Vegas.
That's interesting. That might be exactly the place that they're referencing, because we do get some, like, a lot of it is heavily forested, but I mean, I'm not sure. Back to my original train of thought, we get a number of these where it's like a title card that doesn't, like, you need to stretch your neurons just a little bit to place it. If you're watching the movie high as fuck, which might be the intended method of viewing, you might not catch it. But those title cards are directly referring to shit, and we'll get to others as you know, we get to them in the plot. So
yeah,
Shadow Mountains.
The one has such good font. I love the font on the later one.
Just a quick heads up, Josh, because I know what you're about to say. That doesn't make any sense. It's in the Mojave Desert. Shadow Mountain, there's actually a lake that's an oasis in the desert that's very heavily forested. So I'm assuming that's where they're at.
Yeah, that would track.
Cool.
Yeah, also, I'm looking at pictures
track.
here.
It does track with some of the characters that we run into,
and some of the later imagery in the quarry specifically.
That's what I was
deserted,
thinking.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking. So Red Miller arrives home, actually spooking Mandy a little bit, who is drawing. And he asks her about what she's working on and takes a moment to admire it. And then later we see them fall asleep on a bed without a bed frame. I described it as sleeping pallet, but that's probably in my notes, but that's probably doing it a little bit of a disservice. Their cabin is super cool. We're not going to do the friend's apartment breakdown on what you'd have to make to afford a place like this, because that's pedantic and stupid. But their cabin has this really like open plan vibe. Like most of the walls are fucking windows. In fact, where they sleep is like in the alcove of a bay window. It looks almost like they're sleeping in a treehouse. It's a really cool looking place, and is probably absurdly expensive in real life. But
I mean, nowadays, but in 1983, I think a lumberjack could probably afford that.
It's the way it's designed, like it's designed so that looking at it in a 2023 lens, you're like, that's fucking expensive. But in a 1983 lens, you're like, some dude made that.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no permits involved or anything like that. Some dude fucking had a vision and fucking built this himself. And I think it's really well done. The cabin is dope as shit. So while they're laying in bed, they're talking as they fall asleep. It's honestly, it's for a film that is drawing a lot of imagery and stuff from like sci-fi pulp novels, heavy metal style shit, or as Ryan more accurately pinned it, prog rock albums.
There's some metal in there, but like it seems to be more Easter eggy metal than like the actual aesthetic standards for me personally.
I think the metal aesthetic is purely like heavy metal, not the music genre, the animated film.
Okay. So like Météores Orient, the French science fiction fantasy anthology series.
Yeah, I think that's a core piece of this film's identity. But in very few scenes together, because there are, if you actually start doing the math on it, they and this is fucking good filmmaking. You get a sense of the bond between these two people, this couple, very well. And this scene is fully laying the foundation of that. They're talking. Mandy is describing a book that she's read throughout her day. It has to do with the galaxy. And then they banter back and forth about their favorite planet. And she says her favorite planet is Jupiter, and goes into like the constantly raging storm and the giant eye of the storm on Jupiter, which is very prominently featured in any picture or depiction you've seen of the planet. And Red responds that his favorite planet is Saturn, but then changes his mind and says his favorite planet is Galactus, which Mandy correctly points out isn't a planet. And he's like, yeah, but he eats planets. So comic book nerd, artsy girlfriend. It's
the bond
just
is strong, yeah.
Yeah,
Not unlike the bond between this podcast and our advertisers, in fact.
no, actually way stronger.
Way stronger.
The bond between this podcast and our advertisers. We don't give a shit, man. This is procedurally generated. So
Yeah, just pay us.
Yeah, pay us to get out of it. Otherwise, be subject to whatever that poor overworked algorithm decides is an appropriately placed ad, given the content that we've been talking about. Listen to it, and then go to Patreon and please put yourself out of this misery.
Patreon.com/NickCageFight. Oh, the bond is broken.
James? Oh no.
As soon as Josh started talking about bonds, I was like, I gotta see where we're at time wise.
No, thank you. Because again, with movies we like, we're gonna probably go over a little bit. I know we're going to on this because I didn't even see the middle part in my note break. And we're at like what, 40 minutes?
Oh, we're still like 8 minutes into this film. And
yeah.
And I forget which one of you said it, but it's very true. The first like 20 minutes of this film is very mumblecore.
Oh, it's so mumblecore. I think that was me. Yeah, it's the sound mixing is not done in a way where you're supposed to 100% understand everything that they're saying. It's vibes.
Oh, see, if that was intentional, I missed it. I'm actually a little hard of hearing. I watch all my shit with subtitles, and am a snob about subtitles that miss stuff that I specifically go back and be like, no, this is what they said. Anyway, so
that's
I
because people that get paid to do subtitling are not paid very much at all. They're usually paid 45 seconds per minute subtitled.
Full solidarity with the poor people who are underworked on that one. I just notice it and go, okay. But subtitles are critical to me piecing together my understanding of stuff. So the camera pans up, night sky showing an insane borealis. And this is, again, there's a lot of imagery in this scene that we're not going to be able to do justice in a pure audio format, which is why I recommended watching it. So this transitions into a cut to daytime, and Red and Mandy are out on a boat fishing on a beautiful lake. And then this transitions into a curtain of flame filling the screen, which then dwindles down to a campfire that Red is tending with a cigarette dangling from his mouth while Mandy is swimming in the lake. This is important imagery that is going to be called back to in animated format a number of times here, because Mandy appears to be swimming in the nude. Which, fuck yeah, man. If you got a lake in your backyard and largely unpopulated place, fucking skinny dip. I mean, do your research on local pathogens and fauna in the lake, but fucking go for it if it's safe. So Mandy wakes the next morning and it transitions seamlessly into her walking through a forest. in a way that is not incredibly clear if this is a dream sequence or an imagination or reality. But she stumbles across a dead fawn. And she kneels by the fawn and sheds a tear. And then we cut to a TV screen displaying static, and we see Red and Mandy asleep on the couch in the living room of their cabin. So Mandy wakes Red at this point because he's having a bad dream, but he can't remember what it was. And he mentions, and I'm being pedantic about the details, because that's fucking what they pay me to be here for, but also because this movie doesn't have any fat on it, so it means something. Red specifically goes on to talk about how he's thought sometimes about moving away from this place. But Mandy explicitly states that she likes it. She likes the isolation, the view, the nature, so on and so forth. And then she launches into a story from her childhood about how there were a bunch of starlings around her house when she was a kid that she loved because they're pretty, and she liked the sing song of the birds, but her dad hated them because the birds ate cherries from his cherry tree. And this was one of those things where I knew I was getting old because I saw both sides of the fucking argument. Like, if I had a fucking cherry tree that I planted and tended, and some birds were eating all my cherries, I would be annoyed. I would not take it as far as this man did, because she goes on to say how one time she was out in a field playing with her friends, and her dad showed up with a wriggling sack, and in it was a bunch of baby starlings, and he also had a crowbar with him. And he said he was going to teach the kids how to take out starlings, and bashed a baby starling with a crowbar, and then made the kids do it. And when it got to Mandy's turn, she just ran away instead. It's a gruesome fucking story. And again, if you're going into this film for the first time, it seems a little out of place from what you've seen so far. But it is actually perfectly in line with going from domesticity to barbarism, basically. So the next day, Mandy is reading a sci-fi novel called The Seeker of the Serpent's Eye. I'm not sure if this is
not real.
Not real.
Not real.
So the author is not real as well.
Prop book named after an album by the guy that did the music for this, who died in 2018, and the movie was dedicated to.
Dope. Solid.
It's Johann Johannes, I think. I will double check that, though.
Okay.
Clarification, not dope that he died.
Not dope.
No. Dope calling it out and recognizing it. My apologies. So she again sees herself, or is walking in the woods again, with mist rising, and we see some time-lapse stuff. This movie is very trippy on purpose, with a solid payoff for the viewer, which I will talk about when we get to it.
Correct. Also, the guy's name was Johann Johansson, so I was slightly off on that.
Fair.
How dare you, honestly? Disrespectful.
The scene here, so we have a lot of color filters that get applied in a way that's actually artistic, as opposed to the sepia soaked tones that you see in a lot of shit these days. There is a purpose and premise for a lot of this, but the scene turns deep red as she's walking down the trail. She's smoking a cigarette and reading her book, and a van is coming down the opposite direction, and inside are a number of people. There's a man with long hair and sunglasses reclining in the passenger seat, who locks eyes with Mandy as they pass. And then we get to another title card screen.
My favorite one.
Children of the New Dawn.
And it's in 1980s Stephen King trade paperback font.
Yeah, it is.
I'm going to call out at the risk of potentially doxing myself a little bit, a modern artist that really apes this kind of style, Stephen Rhodes. If you're not familiar with his work, go ahead and check it out. There's very much those callback vibes from a more modern perspective, which this would fall under the same category of. The next scene that we cut to doesn't have any of these filters applied to it, and we see that in normal lighting, the van that they passed is yellow. It's trademark and comes up a couple more times as a visual cue. So there you go. So here we cut to following the Children of the New Dawn. That is the name of this group of people, which is a cult. That's the best way to describe them. One of the members, Mother Marlene, the oldest member of the cult, as far as we can tell, is talking to Jeremiah Sand, the long-haired gentleman with the sunglasses who was in the passenger seat in the previous scene, as he's laying on a bed. He is verbally abusive to this woman, and threatens her explicitly that anybody who's not with him will not be able to ascend. So the cult language is established very, very quickly here. And he's specifically perturbed about Mandy. It's very thinly veiled. You know exactly who he's talking about. So he kicks Mother Marlene out and tells her to send in Brother Swan. Swan comes in, and Jeremiah tasks him. You need to get that girl. I need that girl that I saw talking about Mandy. And so Jeremiah asks him explicitly, do you have the horn of Abraxas? Which, if I'm not mistaken, is a reference to Greek or Roman mythology. Isn't Abraxas something from that corner of the world?
Yeah.
Egypt.
Oh,
Egypt.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Abraxas is the supreme deity and source of divine emanations, the ruler of all 365 heavens or circles of creation, one for each day of the year.
Right, but the word Abraxas,
It's also my
Greek.
favorite Santana album.
Oh, you see, my favorite Santana album is the one where he hates trans people.
Oh, I didn't hear that. That's a bummer.
Yeah, that happened.
All right. Listen,
he's an old man.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. My personal opinions, I'm not trying to defend people who are explicitly going after a marginalized community, but I don't know who decided to ask an incredibly old Santana his opinion on this shit.
Nobody did. He just went. He just randomly, like, he played a song at a concert and then just started going off about bathrooms.
Oh,
there was no question.
Come on, Carlos.
It was just he played Smooth featuring Rob Thomas, and then
was Rob Thomas actually there?
I have no idea. I don't even know if he played Smooth. I'm just assuming it was Smooth. I assume that his concerts are just him playing Smooth 19 times in a row.
Well, he's got to fit Oya Komopa in there too.
I will say this. My opinion on Santana is my same on my opinion of politicians. We shouldn't ask for nor pay attention to their opinions on life or how we should run it once you're past the age of 70. You have no skin in the game anymore. It's paper thin at this point and liver spotted. Step back. I mean, you can fucking say whatever you want. Don't expect anybody to act on it. So that's it. That's my bit on that. So back to more interesting topics. So
such as this movie,
the horn of Abraxas is a weird ocarina, right? It's an ocarina.
It's an ocarina.
But what I was going to say is that the word Abraxas is Greek, so like you were kind of half right. It was an Egypt thing, but the Greeks were the one who like translated it.
Oh, so it probably had to do with like Gnosticism and all that bullshit.
Yeah. When you got a pantheon, when you learn about a new god, you're like, dope, we'll take that one too.
Yeah.
It's like Pokemon.
Yeah, you got to catch them all, man.
Hell yeah. So, so Brother Swan has this weird ocarina And Jeremiah and Swan discuss
Would
also
you call
offering
it the
up.
Ocarina of Crime?
It's the
That's good.
full credit on that one. That one didn't occur to me, but is very solid. So Jeremiah and Swan also discuss offering up. There is a character who doesn't speak, and I don't know their name. There is a jolly, blonde, curled, overweight gentleman.
I hope it's fuck big.
That's palling around with the cult. And they specifically talk about him in derogatory terms. And it's like, yeah, no, we can offer him up as an offering too, just to seal the deal. Wink and nod. That's the only imagery I will say I'm a bit lost on, other than having like a sacrificial character to try and cement the sinister nature of the cult. But it's kind of funny when you pay close attention to it. So anyway, Swan leaves and sends in Sister Lucy at Jeremiah's request. Now, Sister Lucy is kind of an interesting figure to me because they don't go into her story. We'll get to where her story ends, but she is essentially like a young, attractive woman, the only young, attractive woman in this cult circle. And it's made clear directly in this scene that while Jeremiah Sand is banging literally every member of this cult, Sister Lucy is like the primary offering in that context. I don't think she says a word throughout the entire film either.
I don't remember her speaking.
Yeah, same.
So it's weird and tragic with no specific resolution or catharsis for her personally. So she represents a very tragic figure in my mind when watching this. So we cut back to Mandy, who we learn works the counter of like a local gas station convenience store. Mother Marlene actually comes in to buy some stuff. I mean, I'm talking about so backwoods. I mean, even in the 80s, there's not a cash register. There's an empty cigar box that you put cash in. And Mother Marlene buys stuff and talks up Mandy a bit. And unfortunately for our main characters in this film, teases out the rough location where Mandy lives. And it's a remote enough area that's saying I live near the lake. There's only one fucking house by the lake. You know what I mean? So
that's
Mother
like
Marlene, exactly. So Mother Marlene teases out her basic landing spot, pays for her stuff and leaves. That night, the van and its occupants stop in the dark woods, and Brother Swan gets out with his little ocarina and he blows into it twice. Then he gets back into the van. Now, the long blonde-haired cultist is impatient, but that's really the only personality we get from this individual throughout the course of the film. After a short wait, a number of riders on ATVs and dirt bikes show up wearing some weird shit, right? This is where my intro joke it looks like Slipknot shows up on dirt bikes and ATVs.
It's like if Slipknot starred in Mad Max.
Yeah.
I would have said it if Slipknot was in Hellraiser.
Yeah.
True. It's literally the next line in my notes is they remind me of Cenobites.
So I've been watching the Hellraiser movies, and you know that dude with the teeth? You know the guy with the teeth? You know that his name it's Chatterbox, according to the fans, but he has a canonical name. You know what it is?
No, what is it?
No.
Jim. His name is Jim.
No, wait, does he have the like super teeny tiny
eyes? And he's got the teeth that he's all like jacked out. Yeah, it's Jim.
Hell yeah, that's Jim. Awesome. I saw you were watching that on your Twitter, and I was like, "Fuck yeah!" I did last Halloween. Every Halloween, my fiance, last time I'll reference her as that on the podcast, pick an iconic horror franchise and watch through as many of the films as we can get through over the course of October. And last year it was Hellraiser because the new one came out.
Oh, okay. I still haven't seen the new one. I'm actually working my way towards it.
Let me know what you think. I
Okay.
am incredibly generous towards horror franchise films. You could probably guess that from me talking about new Texas Chainsaw Massacres. They're sticking to a theme. It's formulaic. If you're a complaint that the new one is formulaic, then I don't know why you're watching them in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, a small bit about that, but Rich fucking hit the nail on the head. They look
That's
like
the only thing,
cinema.
and it was because I saw Ryan watching those movies that's what it made me think of.
They're good. They're fun.
There's like a dude who's covered in nails, which gave me the Slipknot imagery. One of them has like a porcelain mask and is covered in lube, which is wonderfully disconcerting. But Swan gets out of the van, followed by the other cultists. A rider approaches Swan, and they have those fucking Hot Topic circa 2003 finger armor bits on them, and caresses Swan's face, who then hands over a mason jar. And this is an important bit to remember. So the whole scene is washed out in red. There's a mason jar filled with goop, right? And the rider drinks the entire mason jar, filled with God knows what, and says blood for blood, and then demands more. And Brother Swan is like, first things first. You know what I mean? Like, we gave our offering, fucking do your business. And so then we cut to the cabin where Red and Mandy watch TV and then go to sleep. And outside we see flashes of the riders. There's some fucking strobe light effects. And this is just the strobe light image is accompanied with like electric sounds. There's like a lightning storm or something, or maybe something more spooky or supernatural is implied. And the riders are in the house and surrounding the bed. Red and Mandy are grabbed by the riders while the cultists watch on. Outside, the blonde, curled, overweight gentleman is dragged into the shadows by one of the riders, the sacrifice to seal the deal. Red is knocked out, and Mandy has a bag placed over her head.
All right, I think we probably jumped over it, but there is a moment before this happens where they're watching a movie, and I just wanted to shout out that they're watching Night Beast by Don Dohler.
There you go.
Movie's really bad. Don Dohler movies usually are, but you know, like
solid call out. But like, it's a sci-fi flick, right?
Yeah, like a sci-fi horror movie about an alien that lands in like some backwoods town, and he's got a laser gun. I thought it was Laser Blast when I was first watching it, but I double checked and it was definitely Night Beast, which I should have clocked because I did watch that like 2 weeks ago.
Nice. Also, we're about an hour in, so this might be an actual good place to cut it with the bag over Mandy's head.
Oh, before the actual violence? Yeah.
Yeah, we can cut it there. We're only 3 paragraphs of my notes before my actual like.
Oh no! Do we want to go another paragraph then?
Yeah, we can do that.
Let's.
Yeah, let's.
Because I think we're probably gonna have
ignore
2
this.
Overstuffed episodes.
Yeah,
I'll cut this part out.
No, leave it in. I want to cut.
Let them know.
I want them to know.
I want to know that we're thinking about them.
So Mandy awakes, restrained to a chair in her own kitchen, which isn't immediately apparent the first time you're watching this film, but I've seen it several times. She's in her own kitchen in the cabin, and Mother Marlene comforts Mandy, tells her that the scary men are gone, her husband is alive and well, and all of that will continue as long as she behaves. I think the way she puts it is, as long as you're a good girl, something along those lines. And then like slaps her across the face. Then Marlene, with the help of Lucy, restrain Mandy and drop something into, like, use an eyedropper and put something in Mandy's eye. Through the rest of the film, the context is pretty clear. This is LSD or acid of some sort, which is fucking
you shouldn't take it through the eye. You shouldn't take it through the eye.
Hardcore way to administer this drug.
Second most hardcore, right after Jimi Hendrix, who used to dip his headband in it and then cut his head and wear the headband so it would slowly drip into him as he sweat.
Yeah.
I heard that he just put the tabs in the headband.
I was under the impression it was a dippy dippy.
Okay, well that is fucking more
it's gnarly as hell,
sure.
Yeah. especially if he cut his head open.
Yeah. That's fucking crazy.
Motherfucker
that's
bladed
some
himself.
pro wrestling shit right there.
All of
Yeah.
that pales in comparison to what happens next, which is Mother Marlene pulls out with tongs what looks like one of those giant murder hornets from Japan.
Yes.
Out of a jar filled with formaldehyde or something or the other, and stings Mandy in the neck with it.
Calls it the cherry on top.
The cherry on top. Now, Mandy is fucking fucked up, right? That's another thing that this movie makes severe pains to display. When their characters are high, you can tell because their pupils are taking up all of their iris, basically.
And also, it films it as if you are high with them.
That is the other thing I was going to say. This movie makes great pains to throw the viewer into the hallucinatory state of somebody who's been subjected to these drugs. You get graininess, you get washed out audio, you get filters and warping. It's pretty intense. And I think where we will stop it is at Mandy being helped down a hallway by Lucy and Marlene for her audience with Jeremiah. And we'll stop it there because I do want to talk about something that I didn't have explicitly called out in my notes, but I did make a mental note to discuss, is that Mandy has some type of heterochromia. Like it's specifically displayed in the film up to this point, likely a contact of some sort, but one of her eyes has a difference around it. It looks
I think that has to do with the scar. I think she retained an injury because that actress does not have that scar. I did look into that, Rich.
I thought it was the opposite eye
was
of
it
the
opposite
scar
eye?
that had the heterochromia.
Huh. Peculiar. Because that's the only thing that could really make sense to me, unless because heterochromia is usually you have the like the ice blue eye and then the very deep red eye, like David Bowie. Well, unless it was due to a trauma.
Heterochromia also just manifests in just two separate eye colors, separate.
Okay, so it's not always just the David Bowie where you've got the one really blue and the one really brown.
True, but also hers is different, and I rewound and tried to look into it. Because of the filters in the film, it was impossible for me to determine if it was a full different color, but the primary manifestation looks like a ring of white outside the iris of one of Mandy's eyes. And I'm not sure what the imagery is supposed to convey, but Mandy, the actress, the portrayal, everything that went into her outfits and everything was very deliberately done, even just as an aesthetic choice. So I want to make, I want to give it the credit that it's likely due.
Yeah, because that actress doesn't have heterochromia, so it has to be a intentional choice by the filmmakers.
A deliberate choice. There's a definite scar on the left side of her face under her eye, and one of her eyes, I think it's opposite the scar, but I'm not willing to risk my reputation on it, has a difference, and the only one I could say for sure is a white ring on the outside of the iris.
Okay,
so we will leave Mandy being severely drugged and poisoned, above and beyond what you would call being drugged, I guess, if you're being literal, down a hallway for her audience with Jeremiah, who has concocted this horrific scheme specifically to facilitate this meeting.
And as a nice
that's
teaser,
a fucking cliffhanger.
As a nice teaser too, the scene that is coming up at the beginning of next episode is absolutely fucking wild.
The movie goes off its rails from here on out. This is the soft opening. Our next episode is going to cover the soft opening of it going off the rails, and then we're going to see a full fucking fatal railway accident.
Yeah.
This has been the world building.
Yep, 100%. And it's incredibly critical, even if you're somebody who just watches movies for the action. This is why you like the action. This built up. This is the quiet part, followed by the incredible noise. Appreciate it, soak in it. Even if you want to turn the movie on halfway through at this point, if that's your particular form of pervert, go for it. But at least fucking absorb the beginning part, because it is crucial. So yeah, it's time for the fucking plugs. You can find us on X currently at cagefight_pod. Let's see how long that lasts. I did obtain a personal code for Blue Sky recently. If we can't get one for the pod, I'll promote the pod on that, despite the fact that you attach my Christian name to this podcast. That is a fresh posting persona for me. So I will promote the pod on that, assuming X does collapse in on itself like the dying star. We know it to be sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I'm about to say nobody knows you on Twitter anyway. You were following me on Twitter, and I didn't know it was you for like 2 years.
There's several very important reasons for that.
Yeah, I had no idea. Josh what was like, oh, I saw you on Twitter post this. I'm just like, who the fuck are you on Twitter?
Yeah, I keep my Twitter separate from this more public facing platform because I have annoyed the wrong sorts of people over that course of time, which is why I don't interact with my mother, my fiance in any meaningful way so that people could dox me on it. And we dox the shit out of ourselves on this podcast.
Yeah.
Which is why I haven't promoted it on there.
I'm pretty good about cutting those parts out.
Oh, I'm armed to the teeth. Come find me, motherfuckers. I'm armed.
And I'm teethed to the arms. Whatever that means.
For uncles, you can find us on Facebook. We always throw that out there. And
I'm thinking about expanding our Facebook to non-uncles as well. I'm thinking about it.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, possibly. Possibly. Ants? No, just all non-uncles. Yeah.
Very inclusive.
Yeah.
So
it's
ants?
not official yet. It's not official yet. So, this is just kind of it's feelers. You don't need to be an uncle, but like, look, if things are going off the rails, I'm going to start making uncles only again. So
non-uncles, please apply at this point. There will be a rigorous screening process.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It's been going okay with the uncles who think we're Nick Cage.
We got enough of them to get the weird scammers messaging us, which has been fun.
Oh, I ignore I get maybe 4 messages a day of I bought this off your website and it came broken. What do I do? And I think more. I think the first person, because I wasn't familiar with this scam, which is weird because I know all scams. I replied back like, "Hey, we don't sell anything," and they're just like, "Oh, hey, well, here's the picture of what it is, and it's disguised as like a Google link." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, know what this is. Never mind."
Good. That's why we're still in control of that account.
Yeah.
OPSEC. Hit him with our Patreon. That's the big one.
Yeah, the big one is patreon.com/NickCageFight. $1 a month gets you every single episode without ads. $5 a month gets you bonus episodes. The $10 a month tier is the one that gets you the episodes like 2 weeks early and uncut. I think the only things we really bleep out is like if we dox ourselves in like the opening like fuck around moments.
Yeah, or our Patreon subscribers, that should be our fucking money bit. Like, get yourself a dox, but we'll bleep it out. That's our tribute to people who pay the money to be a true Patreon subscriber.
That was still I got a text like 3 days after we did that from the one person who just like, "You just doxed me on your fucking podcast." And I'm like, we bleeped it out, like.
But yeah, no, that's
like,
that's
I don't know
the
what you want us
part.
to do.
That's the whole point, man. Like, when you want to contribute to the creation of some sort of creative project like this, you want to be called out. We do it in a visceral way. It's like barely dodging a car accident. And where else are you can get that fucking adrenaline rush? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Pay for the experience, baby.
You're like, oh shit, are they gonna? Oh, thank God they didn't.
So there you go. That is gonna wrap us for the first part of Mandy. Please join us for the second half. I promise you, it will not disappoint. As always, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it in a way that words will not do justice to. So as always, I leave you with this, dear listeners. We appreciate you.